In an effort to counter militant forms of Islam by non-militant means, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has called for a religious revolution in a speech to an audience of Islamic scholars. Stating that his country is being torn apart, Sisi implored the imams not to remain silent on the issue. His remarks took place at the Al-Azhar conference in Cairo and are said to have taken some of the attendees by surprise. Al-Azhar has a large student population in Egypt, combined with students hailing across Asia and Africa, and totaling more than 2 million individuals. The school has already introduced minor changes in the way textbooks present material, but Sisi would like to see more reforms in that direction. Recent history has shown that efforts to crack down on extremism can result in backlash. Islamic institutions have often made an effort to comply with government policies up to a point, frequently turning against government policies once they fail to hold popular support, as was seen in the recent rise to power of the Muslim Brotherhood and its subsequent fail. A Muslim woman, Samantha Ilauf, has won a Supreme Court victory over Abercrombie & Fitch, who refused to hire her, she claims, because she wore a headscarf required by her religion to her interview. The outcome was decisive in that the vote was 8-1 in her favor, but the grounds of the case were narrow in that the company was not asked by Ilauf to make a religious accommodation, and the company is not on record as rejecting her on religious grounds, but instead said that she violated the company's look policy. Meanwhile, the company has revised its hiring policies to eliminate such considerations entirely. Ilauf's case was supported in Friend of the Court briefs not only by Muslim groups, but also by groups representing Christians, Jews, and Sikhs. Since no blanket call of discrimination was made by the court, company representatives hold open the possibility of further litigation in the case. In a similar case, the Supreme Court has ruled that convicts in an Arkansas prison have the right to grow beards in keeping with their religious beliefs. Considering that, in many societies throughout history, failure to subscribe to local religious doctrine might land you in jail or worse, it is no surprise that great men of science through the ages called themselves Catholic, Muslims, and Protestants, among other formal belief systems. And it's likely that they were in fact devoted to these faiths, considering that most of the world's religions either founded or largely supported educational institutions that teach scientific principles. Still, history is full of examples of men and women of science coming into contact with religious doctrine and facing imprisonment or death as a result. Less certain, however, are the number of scientists who concealed or moderated their findings to avoid such conflicts. Differing histories tell the well-known, but perhaps not well understood, history of Galileo's run-in with the Catholic Church over whether the sun or the earth was the center of our solar system, which itself at the time was considered the center of the universe. With that in mind, both the religious and secular worlds await a forthcoming pronouncement from Pope Francis, which is likely to contain support for the science of global warming and how both global warming and the measures taken to offset it might impact the world's most vulnerable people who live in poverty. This will be in keeping with the Pope's outreach to the poor and other disadvantaged people, an attitude that preceded his ascendance to the Church's highest office.